Olivia breathed a sigh of relief. She had just finished the grueling mock AP math exam. It was finally over. She stretched out at her desk, grateful to be done with the experience. She heard a clatter as her pencil fell to the ground. She leaned down to pick it up and found another hand picking it up first, Sam Feinstein's. He handed it to her from where he sat at the desk behind her. "Here you go." "Thank you," she replied and took the pencil from him. She didn't want to encourage a conversation, still feeling like he was in a situation where he had to handle the tension between his burgeoning love for Saibon Harney and cutting ties with all of his friends. Olivia busied herself packing up all of her things, avoiding eye contact. Frances approached her desk. "Olivia, let's go get lunch. I'm starving." "Yeah, let's go." She answered him and sped up the pace as she packed up. Sam sat where he was, not moving, and opened his mouth. He looked like he wanted to say something to both of them, but was very conflicted. "Sam Feinstein!" Already standing at the doorway of the classroom, Saibon Harney looked at Sam with a smile. "Come with me to get lunch. I'm so hungry." "Okay," Sam replied as he looked away. He started to pack up his things. Olivia lifted her bag and walked to the door. Saibon stood right in the way and did not move, leaning coquettishly against the doorframe. "Saibon!" Olivia smiled, pretending to be cheerful instead of in a blood feud with her. "Don't you think it would be better if you wait for Sam inside the room rather than on the doorway?" Saibon grinned back. "Oh wow, you're so supportive of Sam. Wow, you're so supportive of Sam and I. You're giving me relationship tips now? That's so sweet." Olivia explained patiently, though she knew Saibon was playing dumb on purpose. "No, it's just that you are blocking the door. It's a fire hazard, and I'm sure you care about all of our safety." Saibon's smile froze for a moment. She took 2 steps back. Once outside the door, she mumbled, "Sorry." "It's fine," Olivia said as she breezed through the door. Saibon rummaged in her bag as though she were concentrating on something else, but discreetly pulled something out of her bag, dropping a pin-sized microphone into Olivia's pants pocket without leaving a trace. Olivia and Frances walked out of the classroom toward the cafeteria. After a few steps, Olivia stopped in her tracks. She straightened her top and used her thumb to feel around the inside of her collar, feeling nothing. Next, she inserted her hands into her pants pocket and her fingertips found something tiny and hard. She smiled as she turned around and walked back into the classroom, directly towards Saibon Harney with slow, deliberate steps. Olivia held up the small, toothpick-sized microphone. "How many times will you play the same game before you get sick of it, Saibon?" Olivia pressed her fingertips together and crushed the tiny microphone in front of Saibon's face. The moment the tiny mic was destroyed, Olivia felt a slight numbing sting between her fingertips from the electric shock. She tossed the crushed gadget toward Saibon's face, and Saibon caught it with lightning-fast reflexes. "I think you're misunderstanding something about me, Olivia. I have no idea what this is." Saibon pretended to study the tiny object in her hand. "I don't even know what this thing is. You must be imagining things." Olivia paused for a moment. She looked Saibon up and down. "I am not a genius. I do not know anything about investigation or assassination. I only know that I will definitely not fall for the same thing twice." Saibon maintained a faint smile on her face, but it was clear in her eyes that she wanted nothing more than to crush the life out of Olivia's body with her own 2 hands. Olivia stared Saibon down, not giving an inch. "I already made it very clear the last time we went toe-to-toe, Saibon. If you have the ability, then come for me. I'll be waiting." After saying that, Olivia turned around and left. Frances was wildly confused by the whole interaction and chased after her. "Olivia, wait for me! Whoa!" Saibon watched Olivia walk fast and raise her eyebrows. She felt pleased. She knew Olivia was a worthy adversary and was happy that Olivia did not let her down. Saibon turned her head to see Sam Feinstein looking at her. His expression was completely blank, unreadable. She could not tell if this whole incident had hurt her relationship with Sam or not. Saibon smiled at Sam. Come on, Sam, let's go. I'm hungry. Yes, Sam replied cautiously, pulling on his backpack and walking toward her. Saibon took the crushed mic that Olivia had given back to her. She threw it in the classroom trash can at the door and turned to hold her hand out to Sam, gesturing for him to grasp it. He did. Yeah, let's go, he replied. Saibon studied Sam's side profile as he looked forward. She cocked her head in confusion. You don't have anything you want to ask me, Sam? Sam turned to her, surprised. Ask you what? About that microphone? Saibon was stunned, unable to form a response immediately. Sam gave her a tight smile. I already knew about your other microphone when we were all at the cat cafe. He turned back toward the door and held her hand as they walked out. She looked at Sam with new eyes and very conflicted feelings. She had chosen him because she thought he was simple, but she realized she did not understand him as much as she thought. Sam sighed as they walked toward the cafeteria hand in hand. Olivia is the most interesting person I've ever met. She's also the smartest person I've ever met. They took a few more steps in silence. If you fight with her, he continued, you do not have any chance of winning. Saibon continued to be surprised by Sam's awareness and wisdom in the situation, but she was never one to admit defeat. She frowned. You might believe that. I believe that you believe that, but it's not necessarily true. He laughed. You're so cranky. Are you just hangry? Saibon was, again, stunned by his response. What? Angry. It means angry because you're hungry. He reached out and traced a finger along her jaw. This expression is something I've never seen on your face before. It's cute. He smiled. Let's hurry up. I really need some food in my stomach. On the far end of the cafeteria, Olivia and the rest of her friends met up, finding Morgana saving an empty table for them. Oh my god, why are you guys so slow? Lena complained. I've been waiting here for you forever. Francis raised his eyebrows. We had a run-in with Saibon Harney just now. Camilla Pell was surprised. Ah, and? Francis shrugged. Nothing much this time. Olivia said a few quick things that completely devastated her, and we parted ways. Millie looked at Olivia, curious. You devastated her? Olivia, what does that feel like? Was it amazing? Olivia laughed. It was fine. Morgana waved her hand, dismissing the whole topic. It doesn't matter if it was amazing or not. I'm going to starve to death. I'll wither away to nothing. Let's hurry up and get our food. Okay, her friends all acquiesced, hurrying to get in line for the cafeteria food. Millie looked at Olivia, still curious. Olivia, do you think Saibon Harney will act recklessly about all this? Olivia rolled her eyes. I don't know. Who cares about Saibon Harney? She patted Millie's shoulder. Let's just focus on ourselves. Let me tell you, if Saibon were such a versatile genius, she wouldn't have pulled the same microphone thing I immediately found out twice in a row. Back at the table with their trays of food, the friends all ate together, conversation quickly turning to the morning's practice exam. They had plenty of regular 18-year-old things to worry about without murderous psychopath Saibon Harney. After lunch, the group hurried out of the cafeteria, where they heard that the results from the previous day's exam were posted in the hallway. Millie was used to being at the very top of the scores, but she still rushed along with everyone else, not wanting to appear arrogant. However, once they got to the board where the scores were posted, they found that the crowd of students was in an uproar, surprised and confused. This was the first time in the history of Marshall's school that two students with the same results in each subject were tied for first place. Mr. Dickens gasped on the edge of the crowd of students, holding a hand to his mouth. Do you think she cheated? Principal Yan shook his head, facing him. It doesn't look like it. They have totally different methods for how they arrive at their answers. Olivia hadn't even reached the bulletin board yet to check, but she felt like she knew. Millie returned to her from where she'd squeezed through the crowd to look at the rankings. Olivia put her arm around Millie's shoulder. Millie, is it who I think it is? Yes. Millie nodded. It was the first time she'd met someone who could share the spotlight with her for grades. It's Saibon Harney. Everyone turned to look at Millie, as if waiting for her to completely blow up. "How do you feel?" Lena asked Millie nervously. "I don't feel anything." Millie retracted her gaze from the board of test scores and looked around. She saw what she thought she would. Saibon Harney standing not far from her, smiling victoriously at her reaction. Millie took a step toward her. The crowd of students around them parted, opening up a path between the two academic rivals. They each walked toward each other step by step. Saibon raised her chin. "Looks like we're tied," she grinned, enjoying every second of Millie's reaction. "What a coincidence," Millie replied with a smirk. "You did a really good job. You must have studied hard." Saibon shrugged, pretending to be modest. "When I set my mind to something, I always get it." The surrounding onlookers were stunned, expecting a fight, but surprised to see these two first-place girls speaking amicably. Morgana was also surprised. "Are you guys going to fight or make each other friendship bracelets?" she asked loudly. The people around her laughed, and the tense atmosphere became much more relaxed. Cameron noticed Millie looking more stressed than usual. He knew this level of attention was something she was uncomfortable with, so he took it upon himself to get her out of this situation. He came up and took Millie's hand, pulling her away from the crowd, and back toward their classroom. Millie said nothing as she allowed him to take her away, but as soon as they were out of earshot from the other students, she gave his hand a quick squeeze. "Thank you," she whispered up to him. As Saibon looked at Millie and Cameron's backs as they left, she smirked in satisfaction. She thought it seemed that those two were a very sweet couple, but she knew the Pell family would not be happy about a potential daughter-in-law with an unknown secret identity. She thought happily that a secret like that could really throw a wrench into their cute relationship. Sam Feinstein approached Saibon's side and grabbed her hand the way Cameron had Millie's. "Hey, let's head back to class," he suggested gently. She too allowed him to pull her away, knowing that to the other students, their relationship probably appeared as sweet as Cameron and Millie's. Saibon looked up at Sam and saw the protective caring in his eyes. She thought that there was no one in the world who understood human nature better than her, but at this moment she was lost. She couldn't understand how this boy could feel so much for her when she truly felt nothing at all in return. Olivia stood where she was and watched Sam and Saibon leave, the corner of her mouth slightly raised in a suppressed smile. Sam had really fallen hard for her tricks. Olivia turned to the rest of her friends. "We should get back to class, right?" Her friends nodded and murmured their assent. Everyone took their seats in Adam Reed's class. The bell rang just as Adam Reed walked in with a smile. "Good afternoon, everybody." The students all mumbled a good afternoon back to Adam. He raised his hands dramatically. "The results of our current practice exams have been posted. Good job, everyone. Our class has 5 out of the top 10 students on that board, and 2 of them are even tied for first place. Let's give a round of applause because we're all so proud of them." After the applause died down, Adam Reed continued. "Now on to more fun things, which I'm sure you'd rather be thinking of. One is the senior field day, and the other is this year's Royal Court voting for senior prom." Olivia tried to pay attention, but her mind kept drifting back to Saibon. She knew that Saibon was here to mess with her, but she didn't know why suddenly it seemed she was trying to mess with Millie as well. She couldn't help but wonder. Could it be that Saibon knew more about Millie's possible true identity than she had thought? When the class finally ended in the afternoon, Olivia and her friends gathered to chat and walk together on their way out. Before they reached the classroom door, they saw Georgina waiting in the hall. Olivia noted that, from the looks of it, the injury on Georgina's head had already healed, and she seemed to be in good spirits as well. "Georgina?" Olivia glanced at Morgana and then quickly looked back to Georgina. "You finally left the hospital?" "Yep," Georgina replied curtly. "I'm actually looking for Francis. Have you seen him?" She watched the students filtering out of the classroom, squinting until she saw who she was looking for. "Hey, Frances?" He frowned, not expecting her or having any idea what she was up to. Lena was much worse at hiding her real opinions. She shouted, "What do you want?" Georgina nervously touched her hair. "It's just that I recently bought a few games and was really horrible at them, so I wanted Frances to teach me." Olivia was mildly impressed. She thought that Georgina must have realized that showing off her beauty was not enough for a person like Frances. She had to think outside herself and consider Frances's hobbies. Georgina smiled at Lena. "Lena, you can come too. I have a lot of different games, and I heard that you guys are both very good at playing them." Lena frowned, hating this transparent shift in tactics from Georgina. "I have to study. I don't have time to play games right now." Her friends knew this was a complete lie and very out of character for Lena, but did not want to expose her in front of Georgina. They all remained quiet. Georgina smiled at Lena. "What a pity. Good luck." She batted her eyelashes and looked at Frances. "Can I come to your house tonight to play?" Frances shook his head. "I also don't have time to play games with you. It's exam season. I need to study." Then Georgina was interrupted by Frances before she could finish. He jumped in before she could suggest something else. "I don't have time this weekend either. My schedule for the rest of the semester is full." Georgina's mouth hung open. "You learn best if you have a combination of work and play in your life." Olivia peered around her. "Georgina, can you guys talk about learning theory another time? You're blocking our way." "Yeah," Morgana chimed in. "Georgina, you can leave now. When you have time, go and read a book. You can do something besides trying to wedge your way in between other couples." "How dare you?" Georgina had originally planned to be more dignified. When she heard Morgana's words and saw Morgana's arrogant attitude, she remembered the injury in her hand. She had spent so many days suffering. "Morgana, don't go too far. I was at the hospital thanks to you. I still have a score to settle with you." Morgana shrugged in response. "You were the one who wanted to pick a fight and hurt me that day. What does that have to do with me? I think gravity might be the culprit, so if you're not taking responsibility, you still can't blame it on me." Georgina got so angry that her face turned red. The more her anger increased, the more she began to feel a bit dizzy. She put a hand to her temple. "Morgana, you are unbelievable." "What is it? Are you going to fall again?" Morgana hurriedly raised her hands. "You guys saw it. I didn't touch her. She's addicted to playing the victim." When she heard these words, Georgina got even angrier. Suddenly, her vision turned blurry as she wavered on her feet. Then, without warning, Georgina's eyes rolled back in her head and she fainted, collapsing onto the floor. Morgana was stunned. She did not see that coming and was confused as to what had caused Georgina to pass out. She shook her head and walked over to Georgina. "She's clearly faking it. Let's just go." The rest of the group hesitated, but they knew it would be bad for them to be found near Georgina's passed-out body. Elsewhere in the school, a student ran to find Jake Nevin, knowing that Georgina was his cousin. He told Jake that Georgina had fainted. "What?" When Jake heard the news, his face fell. But to the student's surprise, Jake then replied, "Who are you talking about?" "Huh?" The student's arms fell, unsure how to respond. "Georgina. Georgina Crawford, your cousin?" "No," Jake denied with a cold, calm face. "I don't know her." The student, dazed, walked away from Jake, looking for somebody else to alert. Jake reflected on how the last time he was with Georgina at the hospital, he had overheard what Georgina and her mother Jessica had said about him behind closed doors. He was now indifferent to his relationship with her. He would work with her if it was in his interest, but he thought it would be a good lesson to leave her on her own this time. She didn't have him as a protector anymore, so she couldn't meddle in other people's business and cause trouble. Besides, now he had a great opportunity to work with Saibon Harney. He didn't need Georgina or her mother. Back where Olivia and her friends stood in the hall, they watched Georgina from a near distance, still lying on the floor. As they continued to watch, their faith in their belief that Georgina was faking it began to waver slightly. Morgana rolled her eyes, refusing to believe that Georgina hadn't staged this fainting spell on purpose. Wow, she's really committed. Exactly, Lena agreed. Camilla frowned, less certain. Should we check on her? Millie bit her lip. She wasn't sure if Georgina was really unconscious, or if this was just another one of her plots to ensnare them. Georgina recovered from her fainting spell and slowly sat up, still dizzy. Her elbow and shoulder radiated pain after hitting them as she fell. She immediately assumed Morgana was to blame. She had already been saying that Morgana should have been killed a long time ago, and did not know why Jake had failed so spectacularly in disposing of her. She wondered if she'd have to do away with Morgana personally. A sudden movement made her suck in a breath of air through her teeth due to the pain in her elbow. She delicately touched it tenderly. She raised her head to see Olivia and her friends standing at the end of the hallway watching her. "You!" she shouted angrily. "You all did this!" Morgana rolled her eyes. "We're all the way over here, Georgina. You did it yourself. This has nothing to do with us. And look around, there were a ton of witnesses. You can't slander me anymore." "But if it wasn't you, what happened then? How did this happen?" As Georgina yelled back, she felt waves of pain in her temples. She winced and held her hands to her head, which Olivia and her friends assumed was just a continuation of her dramatic performance. Morgana looked disgusted, like she accidentally swallowed a fly. Okay, stop complaining. You're giving me a headache. Just hurry up and get out of here." Georgina stared Morgana down, her eyes full of murderous intent. Lena looked at Francis and motioned to Georgina. She just wanted the moment to end, as it was such a dramatic spectacle in front of the whole hallway full of students. Lena knew that Georgina wanted Francis's attention more than anything, and if he gave it to her, she would end this nonsense. Francis knew what Lena was silently urging him to do. He reluctantly walked to Georgina's side. "Here, I'll help you walk to the infirmary." Georgina hurriedly nodded. "Yes. Oh, Francis, you are the one kind person in this whole place." Francis stretched out his hand. She took it and lifted herself up, with more effort than she seemed necessary to stand. Launching herself into Francis's arms, she leaned her head on his chest, then shot Lena a gloating look. Lena rolled her eyes as Francis helped Georgina limp away to the school's nurse. Morgana glanced at Lena, confused. "Did you see the look Georgina gave you just now?" "I saw it," Lena replied, cool as ice. "What does that look mean?" Morgana asked. Millie smiled knowingly. "I think it means Lena's boyfriend is very kind. She was thanking Lena for her generosity in lending him out." Lena laughed. "Let's just go. We can catch up with Francis when he's done with the Wicked Witch." As soon as Olivia and her friends stepped outside the school gates, Olivia received a phone call. Her expression instantly became serious. "What did you say?" Seeing this, her friends all stopped in their tracks and halted their conversations, just staring at her with rapt attention. "What's wrong?" Lena asked. Olivia nodded, still on the call. "Okay, I understand. We'll be over right away." She hung up the phone and looked at the others with a complicated expression on her face. "Something happened with our game. We have to go to Confluence as soon as possible." Millie frowned but agreed. She nodded. "Okay, sounds good." Olivia started furiously texting Violet and anyone else who might have more information for her. "Lena, tell Francis to meet us there." The group immediately set off for Confluence Technology. "What's going on?" Olivia asked as she and her friends all rushed into the conference room. Francis had caught up to them in the Confluence lobby and was just as confused as the rest of them as to what was happening. The conference room was already filled with people, each of them with a serious expression on their face. As soon as they walked in, Michael gestured to Olivia and the group. "Good, you're here. Put down your school bags and find a seat." They did as he said, and Olivia took a seat next to her father. They all looked to Michael, waiting for further information. Michael gestured to a woman in a sharp, dark suit, the company's top lawyer. "Rosalind, please continue." She turned to Olivia and her friends. "Would you like me to repeat what we have just gone over?" Michael nodded. "Please, let's just hear it all one more time." "Certainly." Rose nodded, putting her presentation back to the beginning. "When our first game was released, it caused a huge reaction. The profit was high, and there was a lot of imitators that came onto the market." She clicked on another slide. "There's one company that we've known before that has been a problem. Currently, the rights and interests related to copyrights for gaming are rather vague. This other party loves to take advantage of that and has always been on the edge of the law. They like to push boundaries where they can and see what they're able to get away with." She flipped to the next slide. "Currently, their imitation of our game has already reached 20 to 35% similarity. In terms of style, they've got a skin that makes their game look similar to ours. But the actual clarity and mechanics of their RPG are completely different." Lena frowned. "This has already reached the point where they can be sued for copyright infringement, right? I thought we knew this was coming. That's just what happens when you have a successful game, but we can fight it." "Yes," Rose nodded. Even the checkpoints were adjusted accordingly. Morgana interjected, confused. "Tell them to stop. Isn't it obvious? It's an infringement, and they're bad, and we're right, and we should be able to make them stop." Francis frowned slightly. "It's unclear sometimes, more than you'd think, who has the rights when games are similar." Olivia concentrated on her friend's responses. "We do still have to file a complaint. We can't let this kind of plagiarism go completely unnoticed." Rosalind shifted, looking uncomfortable. "We have been in the middle of this negotiation before because of our CEO." She gestured to Michael. "Said that the other departments of the company are not allowed to interfere in the matters of the game department. So all the matters before were handed over to the game department's Sam Feinstein to handle." She glanced at the group of Olivia's colleagues, noticing Sam's absence. Originally, the other company had already softened and agreed to cancel the game. Furthermore, we did not suspect them of plagiarism any longer. Morgana rested her elbows on the table and her chin on her hands. "That sounds like a good thing. But obviously we're still here. What happened after that?" Rose closed her eyes, frustrated. Today, their attitude suddenly changed. They served us papers this afternoon to say that they are suing us for plagiarizing their unpublished works. "What?" Olivia said out loud. But everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. "Who actually plagiarized who?" Rose nodded. "When the legal department heard this news, we felt the same as you." She clicked on the next slide of the PowerPoint. "This is the evidence submitted by their lawyer. He advised us to settle with them in the end to avoid going to court." Olivia and everyone else's expressions changed. The situation had already sounded dire, but was becoming more dire moment by moment. "What's going on?" Millie cried out after a moment. "Everything about this game was designed by Lena and Wendy. We have the drafts." Rose looked grim. "They provided very similar design drafts and claimed that our drafts involved plagiarizing their early work." "Bullshit!" Lena cried as she stood up in her seat. "Wendy and I discussed and then drew these. All of the designs were original. I want to fight them." Rose looked alarmed, putting her hands on the desk like she was about to get up from her seat and flee. Olivia raised a hand. "Lena, please sit down." She did not move her eyes from Rose Lynn, her face cold. "Miss Lynn, please continue." "Okay." Rose nodded, relaxing. She moved to the next slide of her PowerPoint. "Also, the design of their characters and the mobile game design that we collaborated on with the park company is in the lawsuit. The other company also provided design drafts from their company for that as well." "What's the price that they're asking for in order to resolve this out of court?" Olivia asked. She was trying to figure out whether there was another angle besides simple greed. Rose looked awkward. $520 million. "Dollars?" Lena shouted in disbelief. This price was unheard of, even in a high-profile company lawsuit with big players. Confluence was not ready to pay such an exorbitant price, and that response was exactly what the other company was hoping would happen. They knew that Confluence could not ignore them with a threatening sum like that, and evidence like they had on the table either. Olivia and the rest of the employees at Confluence were stuck between a rock and a hard place. What other evidence has this company provided that would suggest we plagiarized them? Olivia asked. She tapped her fingers on the table anxiously, and her face was solemn. She was not caught off guard very often. She usually had the confidence of being several steps ahead of any opponent. The difference in her attitude was subtle but noteworthy. If Olivia was concerned, especially in front of an audience, things were definitely serious. Olivia quickly considered different scenarios. If she won the case, it would earn them a considerable sum of money. But if she lost, Confluence was not the only entity on the line. The Park Company and the Garibaldi companies would go down in ruins along with Confluence if she lost. How can they bring all of us down in one fell swoop based on completely false claims? How is it that we are in so much danger of losing when the truth is on our side? If the other company is making such a bold claim like this, they must have sufficient proof to make their case and feel confident they can get away with it, Olivia thought. No one would make this kind of challenge unless they were sure they could win. So what evidence do they have? The bits I've heard so far are not enough to hang an entire case on. They must have something else making them feel confident enough to take on the top companies in one move like this. Olivia took a deep breath to steady her nerves. As of right now, they don't have any other evidence other than what we've discussed, Rosalind answered. How can that be? Millie asked, clearly thinking similarly to Olivia. A plagiarism claim of that magnitude against such big, powerful companies would require very strong evidence. Millie began to think ahead about how this news might hurt them in other ways on top of their financial hit. Is this affecting any of our advertising partnerships? She asked. None of the main gaming-related brands have indicated any hesitation. But there are 2 media companies that have reached out for details since the lawyer's letter arrived. They want to know the outcome of the plagiarism case before they continue to advertise our game, Rose explained. So anyone can just make accusations and hurt business before the facts are even established? Olivia scoffed. They know our brand. They should know this case is bogus. An elderly voice snorted from somewhere off to the side. This is what happens when you let a child run an entire company. Olivia looked over to the source of the voice and saw an old man sitting in a chair. He looked bent and weathered from a lifetime of complaining. That's right, a man beside the elderly man grunted impatiently. Confluence was just fine before, but now, a clueless young girl has gotten us into a mess. Running around and getting caught plagiarizing, it's shameful. It's bad for the entire company. We all know that we obviously did not plagiarize, Lena exclaimed and slammed the table indignantly. All of the design drafts are completely original. Another older man standing to the left waved his hand dismissively. Quiet down, young lady. Do you think you can intimidate me? I survived Nam. Who are these people? Olivia asked Michael. And why are they allowed to be so disrespectful? She wondered to herself. Internally, she was fuming. Old men like that were often given a ton of room to be very rude without consequences. But Olivia had never been spoken to that way by someone in her own company. Haven't I earned even a little respect for the success I have brought to this company? Not just once, but multiple times in the face of many obstacles? Where were these old men when all of us children were busy saving Confluence? These are some of the shareholders of Confluence, Michael said with a noticeable hint of regret. He had not planned on having the shareholders participate in the meeting that day, but they had invited themselves and showed up unannounced once they heard that the meeting was happening. It could not be avoided. Michael felt it was obvious that these shareholders had come to create controversy, and he worried that Olivia might take the bait. He knew his daughter was brilliant and did not deserve any disrespect that they would likely throw her way. But her deft ability to defend herself without sugarcoating things could escalate the situation in a way they just could not afford at that moment. He was nervous about whatever might happen next. "Oh, really? So these are the famous shareholders?" Olivia asked with a dangerous smile. As soon as he heard Olivia's sharp response, Michael's hopes were dashed. He already knew where this was headed, but he did not interrupt. Olivia knew that these old men were probably the ones who had threatened her father. She didn't know anything else about them and had never heard of them before that day. But she had already had all of the data she needed. These men were disingenuous and not to be trusted or coddled. They clearly came with ill intentions, and Olivia had no patience for anyone like that. Shareholders are not. "Do you remember what shape this company was in before it went into games? Do you?" Olivia asked coldly and stood up to directly address the 3 shareholders who antagonistically stared her down. "Miss Johnson, this is not the park company. I know you're used to everyone kissing the ground you walk on every time you lift a finger. But around here, at this company, you can't just do whatever you want." One of the old shareholders shouted. "No, but I am speaking as the person in charge of the Confluence game department," Olivia countered without batting an eye. These men had no idea they were not really speaking to a teenage girl. Olivia still had all the experience of a woman much older, but of course, being in her 18-year-old body, no one else knew that. "If you're so worried that our stock price will drop and your shares will be worthless, I'll gladly buy those shares from you." When the 3 elderly shareholders heard Olivia's response, their faces changed from smug to surprised. They had expected her to shrink at their first insult, not fight back. "Young lady, that's very bold of you to say," they exclaimed. Olivia folded her arms over her chest defiantly. "You think that's bold? If you really think that Confluence is such a liability for you, I'll take all of your shares off your hands for twice the market price." The 3 shareholders looked at each other in shock. They could not believe Olivia continued to even respond to them, much less challenge them with such confidence. "Do you think we are only here for the money? You clearly don't understand the value of principles. You would know that if you had the sense to listen to your elders. We have a long history with Confluence. It's about so much more than money." "Well, you could have fooled me," Olivia sneered. She held her head up high and did not back down. "These men really think they can shut me up." Olivia laughed to herself. They are going to find out how wrong they are. "Do you really care about this company? Do you have any idea how difficult it has been for this company to survive all this time? You are not the ones who are doing everything you can to keep it afloat day in and day out. You only care about profits and don't pay attention to anything else." "Shut up, you!" the taller shareholder shouted and stood up, slamming his palms on the table. He was so angry his jowls trembled. "You have no idea what you're talking about, Missy. You don't understand these matters." "If anyone doesn't understand it, it's you," Olivia fired back. She did not raise her voice over the old man, but her tone was much sharper and more frightening. Olivia couldn't help herself then. Without thinking it through, Olivia's vision began to narrow as she concentrated on the shareholder's hands resting on the table in front of him. With just a simple thought, Olivia used her powers to make the shareholder's hands slip, causing him to lose his balance and tumble backwards, landing with a thud on his giant bottom. Sitting there in complete shock, the older man now resembled a giant, bald baby in an expensive suit. "Now who looks foolish?" Olivia smiled to herself as her friends attempted to stifle their laughter. The other shareholders quickly rushed to help their friend right himself. "Are you all right?" Olivia asked, a mock sense of worry in her tone. "You should be more careful. I'm sure it's hard to come to work every day in such an elderly body." "Olivia," Michael cut in. He knew it was time to intervene. "You know better than to speak that way to the shareholders. Have a seat." Olivia took a breath and slowly sat down. These old men deserve much worse than my backtalk, Olivia thought with a deadly glare. She continued to blast the old man with her hostile glaze. She could not look at her father as he attempted to smooth things over. Hearing him chastise her in front of everyone like that reminded her too much of her previous life. It was very rare these days that Olivia and her father argued, but in her other life it was a daily occurrence. Olivia didn't like to think about those times. I believe that everyone here cares a great deal about Confluence, Michael continued calmly. I also believe that no one wants to see the company suffer, and we will all do everything in our power to prevent that. That is my own promise. Everyone felt satisfied by Michael's words and confident in his leadership. It's getting late now. We've discussed everything there is to discuss. I'm adjourning this meeting so we can get to it. Thank you for your time, everyone, Michael announced. All the attendees stood up and began to gather their things, hurrying to get back to work with a renewed sense of determination. As people shuffled out, the shareholders stayed in their seats, glaring at Olivia and her friends. Before exiting, Michael turned to Olivia with a serious expression. Please follow me to my office. We need to talk. Olivia gulped as she looked at her father's stern face. The tone he had used when he told her to follow him to his office sent a chill down Olivia's spine. It reminded her too much of the way her father spoke to her in her previous life. But Olivia quickly shook this thought off. In this life, Michael trusted her and believed in her. Surely he was just being stern because the situation dictated it. Michael walked out of the meeting room, and Olivia followed with Millie, Frances, Lena, and Morgana in tow. Olivia felt frustrated that Michael felt he had to intervene while she defended herself against the rude shareholders. She used the walk to Michael's office to get her thoughts in order. I did not come back from the dead and carefully calculate every move to get where I am today, just to let some old entitled men talk down to me in front of a room full of people who are supposed to respect me. I might have accepted that behavior and stayed quiet in my past life, but not now. I wouldn't even be here in the first place as the CEO of the park company and head of the gaming department at Confluence if I let anyone push me around. Olivia took a few breaths as they rounded a corner on the way to Michael's office. She carefully considered what Michael's perspective could have been. Dad has a lot of experience, and he knows how to handle any tough situation. He never ever gets in my way, so his decision to intervene in the meeting was probably not made lightly. Dad knows this company, and he knows how to pick his battles. Sometimes that's how you have to win the war, and that's what I really care about. Olivia also understood that to some, Michael's urgent invitation to his office might have sounded like he was going to have a stern talk with her about how she spoke to the shareholders. She knew her father better than that, though. She knew they were on their way to discussing and strategizing about the lawsuit in private. Back in the conference room, the elderly shareholders gradually made their way out of the meeting with ugly grimaces on their faces. They had not planned on the meeting concluding so quickly, and they had definitely not anticipated pushback from Olivia. No one ever talked back to them in that way, much less a teenage girl. As far as they were concerned, she had way more power and influence than she was qualified to wield. Olivia was the last person they expected to even try to put them in their place. For them, the meeting was a complete disaster, and they bitterly complained the whole way out. It's all because of that Olivia Johnson. The tallest shareholder grumbled through gritted teeth. Shh! Another employee interrupted and held a finger to his lips to indicate that the old man should keep his mouth shut. Why don't you come to my office? Someone is waiting there to speak with you. What? Why should we go meet some stranger? What is the meaning of this? After that meeting, I think we are obviously not in the mood to make anyone's acquaintance, the second elderly shareholder said coldly. If they're looking for investors in something, they'll have to look elsewhere. The third shareholder barked dismissively. The employee had an excited look in his eyes. I think you'll be very interested in what they have to say. Well worth your time. The disgruntled shareholders nodded and took a deep breath. One of them was so angry with Olivia's defiance during the meeting that his blood pressure had surely skyrocketed. "This better be good," he growled. On the other side of the building, Michael, Olivia, Millie, Lena, and Francis finally made it into his office. Once they closed the door, Michael took his place behind his desk and motioned for the others to find a seat. "Well, what do we think of the situation?" "There is a traitor in the company," Olivia and Millie exclaimed simultaneously. "That is my thought as well." Michael smiled, pleased with their shared observation. "The design drafts as evidence provided by the other company? The drafts and schematics come from the gaming department." Lena frowned slightly as she considered who in their own camp might be responsible. "There are also a few original artists. Maybe one of them?" "All possibilities. Someone is obviously providing our design drafts and schematics to them to build their case," Michael said. "They might even have given them a false confession." "People really will do anything for money," Olivia said coldly. "They must be bribing someone in the company for this information." Olivia thought about the stakes of this lawsuit. If the hammer came down on them, Confluence would be finished. The Park Company and Jarbaldi Company both had enough funds to survive the settlement, but Confluence would be financially wiped out, and the reputation they had painstakingly built over the last 2 years would be completely destroyed. Even if they ever tried to make a comeback in the future, the tarnished reputation alone among their customers would keep it from ever getting off the ground. The market would never trust them again. So much of their business ran on their reputation. Losing the case would be a total and utter disaster. "Could it be that those 3 old shareholders are behind this?" Lena asked. The more she thought about the elderly shareholders who attended the meeting and caused so much trouble, the more repulsed she felt. "I see where you're coming from, but no, it couldn't be them." Michael shook his head. "Those 3 men have a lot of shares in Confluence between them. If Confluence suffers, and even just the reputation of the company takes a hit, they will each suffer huge losses. They have no incentive to destroy their own fortunes." "People always do whatever will benefit them the most," Olivia mused aloud. "Nowadays, you really can't rely on very many people in business to remain loyal purely out of long-term friendship. But there are long-term interests. As long as you both stand to benefit, people will stay loyal. Unless someone offers them an even bigger, better benefit," Olivia thought to herself. She did not share it with the others. "We have to think about this really carefully." Michael pursed his lips. "We're flying blind as far as what other evidence they might have, and we have no way of knowing who gave it to them." Olivia bit her lower lip, deep in thought. "Dad, I think we should hire a private investigator to look into it. Someone really good." "I agree. We need to know what's going on." Michael nodded. "In the meantime, while we fight this legal battle, Francis, you'll be our official representative for the gaming department," Olivia said confidently. "Me?" Francis pointed to himself in surprise. "This sort of thing has always been Sam's responsibility. I don't know if I feel prepared enough to take on that role." He hesitated. "We need you to step up, and you're the best person for the job to take the lead on this," Olivia insisted. "You know the game and our operations inside and out. I believe in you 100%. We can have Millie assist you as well. You won't be going at it completely alone." "Absolutely," Millie nodded her head. "I will do my best, and Francis will do great." Millie paused for a moment as she thought it through. "I do think it would be ideal if we could get Sam back onto the team. He is our best option. But he's not an option right now. That makes you and Francis the best," Olivia said firmly. "You can do this." "Okay," Millie and Francis nodded. "How can I help?" Lena asked. She felt more angry than ever about the false accusation of plagiarism, and she was desperate to turn that rage into some action. "Let's have Rosalind send you the designs that the other company is using as evidence. You can study them one by one and see if you can find any clues," Olivia suggested. "I also have that model on my computer. I can give you the file," Michael said to Lena. "That will be great, thank you." Lena nodded. She fished a USB drive out of her bag and handed it to Michael. Michael looked like he suddenly remembered something. Speaking of Sam Feinstein, where is he? Why is he not an option right now? I had a good impression of him and saw him around the office a few times. He seems like a smart and bright young man. Did something happen? Michael asked. Olivia hesitated as she tried to answer diplomatically. She felt sad and guilty about what had happened with Sam getting caught up with Saibon. It felt too difficult to explain at that moment. He's too busy right now and can't help. Olivia tried to seem like she was concerned with the legal battle they were about to face, but in reality, she worried about where Sam might be. With Saibon involved, there was no telling what could happen. It was nearly 8 o'clock at night by the time Olivia and her team finished their grueling meeting to prepare for the lawsuit. No matter what strategies they came up with, they couldn't help but be nervous about the other company's rebuttal. It was clear that this gaming company accusing them of plagiarism did not play by the rules. "It's getting late," Michael observed as he looked at his watch. "We all should get dinner. My treat." They all realized how much time had gone by since they last ate and agreed without hesitation. Morgana spoke up. "I was hungry hours ago." She sighed and rubbed her stomach. "You're always hungry." Olivia smiled. "It would actually concern me if you weren't." "I know, right? It's such a burden." Morgana pouted. "If we're all going out to eat, we should give Victoria a call and let her know we won't be home for dinner, in case she is expecting us." "No need," Michael said. "I called her before the meeting and told her that we would be back late tonight. I went ahead and ordered delivery for her in advance. It should be on its way there now." "You really thought of everything, Mr. Johnson," Morgana said, putting her phone away. "I'm just glad whenever I can talk her out of cooking. She's incredible, don't get me wrong, but she still has trouble getting around as it is." Michael shook his head. "And yet she still insists." "How is her leg doing?" Millie asked. "She'll be getting her cast off next week. She still needs to rest for now," Olivia said. "Then she'll be much closer to walking normally on her own." "That's good," Millie nodded. "I know she can't stand not being able to do everything she's used to be doing on her own." "Yeah, we're all excited for her to get better," Olivia agreed. She remembered something and turned to Lena. "By the way, Lena, don't tell Wendy about all the dramatic lawsuit stuff going on here. I know you both came up with the original designs for the games together, and it would make sense to want to tell her, but I don't want her to get all worried over there in London where she can't do anything about it anyway." "Don't worry, I know," Lena nodded. "I won't be saying anything." Millie thought for a moment, then asked, "Olivia, do you want to reach out to Chris about what's going on? He is kind of the ideal ally to have right now, right?" "Huh." Olivia started to answer, then paused. She suddenly remembered that she had not been in touch with him since he stood her up on their anniversary. Usually, Chris was the one to call her regularly, and she had grown accustomed to leaving it up to him to initiate their contact. She had been so busy with studying for school and now this lawsuit that she had not thought about him, and she suddenly missed him very much. "It is really starting to feel like we spend more time together in my dreams than in real life these days." Olivia chuckled sadly to herself. "That's a good idea," Lena chimed in. "Chris has a ton of resources. He would definitely be able to help." "I think it would be best if we try to handle it ourselves first," Olivia said carefully. "I get the sense it's not a good time to bother him. Trust me, knowing him, he'll drop everything to come help. But I don't want him to do that. He needs to focus on his own thing right now." Olivia knew that something very big and important must be going on with Chris that he was purposely keeping from her. The last thing she wanted to do was distract and overburden him with her own drama. "That makes sense," all of the friends agreed. "Let's go eat," Michael announced. "Yay, my favorite sentence," Morgana cheered. The group gathered their belongings and left the Confluence offices together. After dinner, Olivia, Morgana, and Michael returned home at 10 o'clock. Olivia and Michael continued discussing business in Olivia's room, while Morgana and Victoria remained in the living room. Olivia and Michael talked like they were planning a battle strategy. They were on the same page. The situation needed to be planned and handled with precision. The stakes were too great to make any wrong moves. Out in the living room, Victoria sat on the sofa and cut up an apple. She couldn't hear exactly what Olivia and Michael were discussing with such intensity, but the heavy tone and urgency was clear. She turned and looked at Morgana, who sat next to her playing a game. "Did something happen?" Victoria asked. "Huh?" Morgana asked as she continued to focus intensely on her game. She looked up at Victoria and shook her head. "Sorry, Victoria, can you say that again? I was distracted and didn't hear." "I'm just saying," Victoria said as she placed the apple slices on the table in front of Morgana. "When you all came back, Olivia and her father went right into her room to keep talking about work. It's been so long and they're still talking, it sounds tense. Did something happen at the company?" Morgana paused to save her game and then set it down to pick up an apple slice. She enthusiastically took a bite. "Victoria, this apple is delicious, so sweet." Victoria looked sternly at Morgana. "Don't try to change the subject." Morgana finished chewing the apple. She was not sure how to respond. Morgana felt that on one hand, Victoria probably deserved to know what was going on at the company, since it affected everyone around her. It normally would not be a big deal to share this kind of news with her. But Victoria was still in the middle of recovering from her injury. Telling her would only worry her, and she would not be able to help anyway. Morgana knew without a doubt Victoria would definitely become anxious, especially when she felt unable to take action. She continued to chew in silence. "Morgana?" Victoria frowned slightly at Morgana, then smiled gently instead. "If you don't tell me what happened, once I'm fully recovered, I will only have carrots in the house from now on, and you'll have to eat them every day. Now tell me." No, not carrots." Morgana crossed her arms in front of her chest to form an X. "Victoria, that is so unfair. I can't live like that." "Just tell me what you know and maybe I'll change my mind." Victoria chuckled. Morgana covered her mouth in an attempt to resist, but the hesitation was clear. "Tell you what, in addition to the carrots, from now on, there will be no more fruit at home." Victoria piled on. "Think about it. No more sweet apples, no more delicious oranges, only carrots. I guarantee that everything you see on every shelf of the fridge will be carrots." "No, what a nightmare!" Morgana wailed. "Okay, I'll talk. Morgana quickly told Victoria about the lawsuit. "Basically, someone is purposefully targeting them and trying to cause trouble. We just don't know who." Victoria frowned slightly. She knew that these sorts of elaborate corporate espionage plots were not uncommon in the business world. Victoria recalled how a similar situation happened to her own family, with help from Jack Johnson, of course, that eventually led them to being bankrupt. It only took a few people with malicious intentions, and someone successfully framing each member of the Park family one by one until they were ruined. "Morgana, do they have any proof that the company is setting Confluence up?" Victoria asked. "I wish it was that easy." Morgana pursed her lips as she thought about the tricky situation. "We don't even know exactly what or how much evidence the other company has for their case." "Is that so?" Victoria agreed the situation was very suspicious. Maybe it was due to the precedent of her own experience with the Park family bankruptcy. But the whole thing felt too familiar. Victoria had an uneasy feeling. She had watched Olivia and Michael work so hard all this time, and all of the amazing things Olivia and all of her friends had achieved from putting the work into the company. It would be one thing if this was a legitimate accusation, but they were being framed. They could not let the other side win. "Victoria," Morgana said as she bit another apple slice, "you're making a face while you think about this and it's scaring me. Are you all right?" "Really? I didn't even realize." Victoria laughed at herself. "Please don't tell Olivia and the others that I know about the lawsuit for the time being." "Fine," Morgana agreed. She did not want to promise that, but she could not risk upsetting Victoria and dooming herself to a life of carrots. "You go ahead and keep playing your game. I'm going to head to bed," Victoria said as she slowly stood up. Nice try. I'll help you get back to your room. Morgana chuckled. She helped Victoria walk back to her room for the night and even tucked her into bed. Victoria waited until Morgana gently closed the door after she left, then opened her eyes. She picked up her phone from the bedside table and opened her contact list. She gently scrolled down until she found the name she was looking for. It only rang once before someone answered. "Hello?" said a deep male voice. "Hi, Dad," Victoria said. "I have something to ask you." "What is it?" Andrew Park asked. Victoria had not asked her father for a favor in years, and Andrew Park was surprised to hear from her now. He knew that if his daughter was calling him so late at night, she must have something serious she needed to discuss. While Victoria talked to Andrew secretly from her bed, Olivia and Michael continued their business strategy discussion in Olivia's room. "The first legal negotiation session will be tomorrow afternoon," Michael said. "How many people should we have there?" Olivia asked. 2 or 3, Michael said after thinking for a moment. "Are you planning on going?" "I don't think I should go. If I show up, whoever's behind this will think they've really rattled me and that I'm taking it seriously. They're already confident enough. They don't need to think that I'm threatened. If I'm there, it's less likely that we'll get useful information out of them," Olivia reasoned. She also wondered if perhaps this whole thing was a trap set up by one of her enemies to catch Olivia in a vulnerable position. She couldn't risk delivering herself up on a silver platter. Of course, she kept this thought to herself. She didn't want Michael to worry about her safety any more than he already did. "I'm not sure we should be leaving the negotiation up to Millie and Francis," Michael hesitated. "They're very smart and capable kids, but I would feel much better if we had Sam Feinstein in charge of this. He's always been the best at legal negotiations." "Don't worry, I've come up with a plan. I'll be guiding them the whole way just from a distance," Olivia said and pursed her lips. "It's not ideal, but it's the best option we have. Confluence will start investigating all the contracts and payments. If the other side is playing tricks on us, I have faith that our legal team will catch them." "Good," Michael nodded. "I have suspected that too. That's all we can do for now," Olivia sighed deeply. She was exhausted from yet another long, high-stakes day. So far, everything we have to work with is still very surface level. If we want to get an edge, we still need to know what they have up their sleeve. Michael reached out his hand and affectionately patted Olivia on the shoulder. "I never wanted you to have to deal with all of these distractions. You all should be able to focus on school right now. Who could have predicted something like this would suddenly come up?" "That's the New York business world for you," Olivia laughed. "Nothing can ever go just smoothly. Obstacles are inevitable, but we will be fine." "Yes, we will." Michael stood and sighed. "I'm going to check on your mother. You should get some rest. You need it." "Okay. You need rest too, Dad. Don't stay up too much later," Olivia cautioned. "I need you firing on all cylinders. We all do." "Don't worry, I won't be long." Michael smiled and turned to leave. Once Michael had closed the door behind him, Olivia let out a long, tired sigh and fell deep in thought. This whole lawsuit situation came on so suddenly. It's so strange. Could it be related to Saibon Harney? Olivia thought it was too much of a coincidence that Saibon was in her life now, messing with her every chance she got. At the same time, this lawsuit suddenly appeared. And I don't really believe in coincidences, especially not when it comes to Saibon, Olivia thought. But there is one thing I can be sure of. This is definitely not a normal legal case. Since that other company clearly has malicious intentions, I won't waste any energy on staying in good faith either. Olivia considered what she knew about the legal implications. Copyright violations were taken very seriously in the United States. If Confluence lost this fight, they would be doomed forever. I have to win this, and I have to win decisively, without any ambiguity. Olivia clenched her fists reflexively as she plotted in her mind. Olivia glanced at her phone then. It was 11 at night, usually the time Chris Jones would be calling her to see how her day had gone. She felt an ache in her heart as she thought of him. She wondered what he was doing at that moment and longed to hear his voice. She knew if he wasn't reaching out to her, there must be a reason. She didn't want to bother him, but it was hard to go so long without him. Maybe it would be fine if I just called to say hello. I don't have to tell him all this nonsense with Confluence and the lawsuit. I won't add any more to his plate. Olivia bargained with herself. Just then, the door creaked as it opened slightly. "Olivia?" Morgana said from the doorway. "Yes?" Olivia turned to look at the door. Morgana burst through the door. She stood very straight with her arms always tensely placed at her sides. She did not look like her normal relaxed self. Olivia silently observed that, no matter what, Morgana did not carry herself like anyone else she had ever met. But even for her, this behavior was odd. Olivia raised her eyebrows slightly at Morgana. "Is there something you are not telling me?" "Nope, definitely not," Morgana quickly denied. "I'm just tired. I should go to sleep, but I was going to take a shower first. Don't mind me." She scurried around to gather the pajamas she would change into after her shower and rushed off to the bathroom. Olivia crossed her arms and shook her head as she suspected Morgana was using excuses to avoid telling her something. She sighed and decided to let it go for the moment. "Forget it." Olivia shook her head and took a deep breath. She returned her gaze back to the screen of her phone. She fought with herself for another minute before she finally caved. She dialed Chris's number. The line rang several times, and then Olivia reached an automatic voice message. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is out of service," the robotic voice said through the phone. Olivia ended the call, and a bad feeling crept over her before quickly settling into the pit of her stomach. Out of service? That doesn't make any sense. Olivia knew that was always accessible by phone. Something isn't right, she thought, then immediately dialed Sven's number instead. After 3 rings, he answered. "Hello?" "Hey, Sven, it's me," Olivia replied. There was some urgency in her voice, but she remained calm. "Liv!" Sven exclaimed. On the other end of the call, Sven tried to keep his tone as light as possible, but his face was stuck in a deep frown. Sven was a little nervous about why Olivia was calling. He knew he was not supposed to share any information regarding Chris's dangerous mission to see the hunters. If Olivia asked him about Chris, Sven did not know what he would say to her. He was not sure if he would be able to lie convincingly enough if it came to that. "Hi, yes, is Chris with you? I can't get a hold of him," Olivia said. Sven stammered. He thought he had prepared himself for this question, but he now found himself frozen on the spot. He had no trouble lying and keeping information from dangerous enemies, but it was almost impossible with Olivia. Olivia sensed the worry in Sven's hesitation and instantly knew something was not right. "What's wrong?" Olivia said, standing up. "What happened? Where is Chris, Sven?" "Chris, Sven bit his lower lip as he struggled with what to say. He knew Chris really did not want him to tell Olivia anything at all, but the concern in Olivia's voice was too much for him to bear. "Chris said he was going to Europe to do something, but he was supposed to be back by now," Sven said carefully. "He never came back?" Olivia exclaimed. She recalled that the last time she and Chris had spoken, he said that he had something to do, but he hadn't said he was going to Europe to do it. Olivia's thoughts whipped into a frenzy. Why has Chris been gone for so long? And even if he really is outside of the country, why wouldn't he try to contact me? He always calls. Olivia's heart skipped a beat, and she felt her mind go blank with panic. There was suddenly not enough air in the room. Where is he? I just told you. He went to Europe. Northern Europe, if you want to be more specific, Sven said evasively. He could not stand to hear how panicked she was, and he did not know how to respond. Olivia always sounded so cool and collected. It was hard to hear her now sounding like a frightened child. He was startled to hear the unfiltered fear in her voice. The truth was that Sven felt just as worried as Olivia. and hearing his own feelings echoed by someone else made it difficult to stuff them down. Sven was scared. Very scared. What did he go to Europe for? Did he say anything about what he was doing there? Was there any danger that you know of? Olivia asked desperately. Did he mention which part of Europe, a country or a specific city? Slow down, that's too many questions. Sven struggled. He was embarrassed to feel so afraid and did not know how to comfort Olivia either. He didn't even know how to feel better himself. He had no idea what to say next. He didn't usually need to make these kinds of decisions on his own. Chris was usually the one who decided on the plan. If Sven told Olivia the whole truth, that Chris left to find the person who put out a bounty on Olivia's head, Olivia would probably become even more upset and want to do something impulsive. But Sven also knew she deserved to know the truth. He knew exactly how scared she felt. Sven paused for a moment to think, then made a decision. Liv, don't worry. It's going to be okay. At that moment, he looked up at the large screen in front of him, listing flight arrivals and departures. He had a bag slung over his shoulder and a ticket in his hand as he stood in front of the security line at the airport. Listen, I'm at the airport now and I'm taking off for Europe in 10 minutes. I'll call you as soon as I get there. Hearing that Sven was on his way to Europe eased some of the panic in Olivia's heart. She knew that if anyone could find Chris Jones, it was him. Good luck, Sven, and thank you. Olivia kept her voice even in spite of her intense worry. She was just grateful to finally get the truth, and she knew Sven didn't have much time to keep talking. She did her best to ignore the throbbing pain in her temples. Thanks, Sven smiled. Don't be too worried, all right? Chris has always been a lucky son of a gun. He will be fine. I know, you're right, Olivia said as she let out an anxious breath. I have to go now, Sven said. I still need to arrange my plans for when I land in Europe. Okay, have a safe flight. Olivia smiled despite her nerves. I don't care how late it is or what I'm in the middle of. Call me as soon as you have any news. I will, Sven nodded. Take care of yourself. You too, Olivia responded. Sven hung up and turned to walk towards the gate to board. He thought about how Chris had been gone for so long. In spite of his optimism on the phone, Sven struggled to stave off his own bleak thoughts. Even if something bad had happened to Chris, Sven was willing to risk suffering the same fate, as long as it meant he might be able to save his friend. Either way, he would find out what really happened to Chris, and that would be worth it. After Olivia set her phone down, she suddenly realized that all of the energy and strength in her body seemed to have suddenly vanished. A wave of intense fatigue and dizziness washed over her, and she fell back on her bed. She could not stop shaking. She had no idea what might have happened to Chris. All she wanted to do was drop everything and leave it all behind to go to Europe to look for him. Nothing else felt like it mattered. But Olivia knew that wasn't true. If I leave just like that, what will happen to Confluence? What about the park company? And what about Dad? Everyone else in my life needs me here to help, she thought. Chris Jones, you better not be in serious trouble. You can't be in trouble. Promise me that nothing will happen to you. Olivia mumbled to herself as she hugged her pillow tight, willing the tears behind her eyes not to fall. She lay back on the bed helplessly, her face pale and her eyes glossy. You must come back. No matter what, you have to come back to me. Olivia, I forgot to grab a towel. Morgana huffed as she opened Olivia's bedroom door and poked her head in. Olivia? She walked into the room and saw Olivia in a daze and looking unnaturally pale. Olivia, what happened to you? She asked, panicked. I'm fine, Olivia said weakly as she sat up in bed to face Morgana. Instead, a new wave of dizziness hit her. She saw a distorted Morgana approach her and her ears buzzed. Morgana? Olivia? Morgana cried out and rushed forward to grab Olivia before she fainted. Hang on, I'm going to get your mom and dad, she said quickly. Don't go. Olivia reached out for Morgana to stay. There's no need to alarm them, I'm fine. Olivia, you look terrible right now. Morgana said, her voice shaking. You... Really, I am fine. Olivia weakly protested. She took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. She focused on the firmness of the bed underneath her and the fresh lavender and linen smell in her room. She suddenly felt a tingling sensation run down from her nose. Your nose is bleeding, Morgana gasped. No, you are not fine. We have to get you to a hospital. You are going there now, come on. I said I'm fine, Olivia insisted. She grabbed a tissue and wiped at the blood coming from her nose. It's just been dry out lately, that's all this is, I'm fine. But, Morgana watched Olivia anxiously. You fainted once before, remember, at the office? That time I was just too tired and I let my blood sugar get too low. Olivia scoffed. Really, I'm okay, nothing bad is going to happen. I don't need to go to a hospital and we don't need to alarm my parents or anybody else. I've never seen you have a bloody nose like that, it can't be good. In movies, it always means something bad is about to happen. Morgana felt very uneasy. That's just in movies. You can grab me a glass of water, that's all I need, Olivia said patiently. She noticed that she no longer felt dizzy. I just need to stop this nosebleed as soon as possible. Mom and Dad cannot know about this or they'll freak out. I can't throw everything off now. No matter what happens, I'll just get through it on my own. I've been through worse. Olivia looked up at Morgana, who still stood there looking worried. The water, please? Olivia nudged. Oh, right. Okay, Morgana said, snapping out of her frozen state of panic. Morgana could see that Olivia would not change her mind, and it would be best to just go along with whatever Olivia asked. Morgana lingered for another moment. Olivia, just promise me that you will go to the doctor to get checked out this week, okay? I have too much to do with the lawsuit. I don't have time for that. It's fine. I don't need it, Olivia insisted. She could not afford to fall behind on the preparations. As soon as you're done preparing everything for the lawsuit, then, Morgana countered. Okay, Olivia solemnly promised and looked at Morgana. After I have everything settled, I will definitely go to the doctor and get a full workup. Good, Morgana nodded. She hurried away, quickly bringing back more tissues for Olivia and some warm water. Seriously, it'll be fine, Olivia repeated as she accepted the supplies. Olivia checked the tissue that had been wedged in her nose and confirmed that the bleeding stopped. She drank all of the water that Morgana poured for her. I'll take another one, please, she said and held her cup out to Morgana. I'll make you some tea, does that sound good? Morgana asked. It does, Olivia agreed. Okay, hang on, Morgana assured Olivia. You yell if anything feels weird or bleedy again. She disappeared towards the kitchen. Once she made sure she was out of earshot of everyone in the apartment, Morgana covertly took out her phone and dialed a number. Atticus, do you have Brent's contact info? Oh, huh? A sleepy male voice responded. Who is this? It's Morgana. Morgana knew that Atticus spent more time sleeping than he did awake, so she took a breath and slowed down for him. Atticus, I can't get in touch with Brent. Can you get a hold of him? Yeah, okay, Atticus said now that he could hear Morgana clearly. What's going on? Is something wrong? It's Olivia. She's not doing so well today. Morgana paused for a moment and glanced at the living room to confirm that Michael and Victoria had still not come out of Victoria's room. She lowered her voice and continued. Today she looked like she was going to pass out, and then her nose started bleeding. She tried to say she was fine, but I'm getting really worried. She refuses to admit when she's feeling bad. Do you think it's venom? Atticus asked. No, Morgana said with certainty. If it was venom, her symptoms would be really obvious, and she'd be on the edge of death. She wouldn't even be able to talk to me, but she's arguing with me and asking for water, so at least there's that. I think there's something going on internally. She seems unwell. Morgana knew that kind of ailment could be anywhere from easily treated to a very big deal. Either way, they needed to find out as soon as possible and get Olivia treatment. Unfortunately, Morgana also knew that Olivia was constantly busy and did not seem to ever have time to actually take care of herself. Morgana suspected Olivia's hectic schedule and stressful life might be causing Olivia's health to suffer in the first place. "Okay, don't worry, I will get in touch with Brent right away," Atticus said as he yawned. "Just try to relax. It will be fine." "Everyone keeps saying that, but I'll relax when we have proof that it's fine and not something worse," Morgana huffed, then took a deep breath. "But thank you, Atticus. Good night." "Good night," Atticus said sleepily. Morgana ended the call and sighed. Atticus turned over under his warm blanket and dialed their brother, Brent. Atticus felt his eyelids grow heavier and heavier. Suddenly, he fell asleep again, snoring lightly. Just then, someone answered the phone. "Hello? Hello, is everything all right?" "Hello, Atticus?" Brent's voice said. When Brent heard the snoring sound come through his phone again, he was speechless. He hung up and sighed. He figured Atticus must have accidentally pressed his contact in his phone while he was asleep. Brent turned back to what he was doing before Atticus had called. He narrowed his eyes at the surveillance camera feed on his computer screen as live data came in from the person he was monitoring. The footage showed an airport, bustling with people. Brent frowned slightly as he leaned in toward the screen. Brent sighed and looked at his phone to check the time. Sven should have boarded the plane by now. Olivia woke the next morning still feeling the stress of all of yesterday's problems. She had hardly slept, her dreams filled with visions of lawsuits, and Chris Jones in danger. She looked at her phone. No missed calls. Olivia sighed as she hoisted herself out of the bed. It was Saturday, but Olivia hadn't had a normal weekend for a while now. She patted her way over to Morgana, still dead asleep, and nudged her awake. It always took extra coffee to get Morgana to act like a human in the mornings. Olivia practically had to carry the half-asleep Morgana out of the apartment to go to work. "I'm so sleepy," Morgana complained as she rubbed her eyes. Olivia almost laughed to herself, thinking about how Morgana was, in theory, her fearsome bodyguard. "Just hang in there until we get to the car. Then you can go back to sleep for a while." Morgana only grunted in response, frowning. She yawned and leaned heavily against the wall of the elevator as they descended. Outside the building, Olivia and Morgana crawled into the back of Violet Cartwright's waiting black car. Olivia closed the door behind them and turned toward Morgana, who somehow was already snoring with her mouth open, smushed against the car window. Violet caught Olivia's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Good morning, Miss Johnson," she nodded. Olivia sighed, knowing that she had to get down to business, but not looking forward to it. "How is the park company faring since I've been dealing with things at Confluence?" Morgana stirred in her sleep and laid down on Olivia's lap, forcing Olivia to raise her hands to get them out of the way. Morgana promptly began snoring again. "There isn't much to report. Everything is okay for the most part," Violet replied to Olivia's question. "But I did receive a letter from a lawyer about Confluence. It was a cease and desist claiming that the game and the figurines based on the game are suspected of plagiarism and copyright infringement." Olivia nodded. "Yes, we're dealing with that currently." She watched the city street pass by the window for a moment. "How is our project building the pet shelter with the city going?" "It is almost finished." Violet stopped at a red light and used one hand to pass back a folder of papers to Olivia. "Please take a look at these." "Okay," Olivia answered as she opened the folder. "Olivia!" Morgana protested as the folder brushed against her head. "Be my pillow!" "Shh, shh, shh." Olivia soothingly shushed her, raising the folder up higher. She scanned over the top document. "This is a report for the construction of our animal shelter." "Yes," Violet whispered, speaking softer for Morgana's benefit. "We bought the orphanage that was burned down and abandoned more than 10 years ago for this shelter." Olivia made eye contact with Violet and smiled, impressed. "That must be the orphanage that Millie stayed in, isn't it?" "Yes," Violet nodded, letting a small smile of satisfaction cross her face. "Because it is a charity project for the city government. We did get some benefits in return. We bought that piece of land at a relatively low price. We'll have the ribbon cutting soon, so I hope you can be there." "Oh, I will," Olivia agreed. As she continued to scan the papers in the folder she held, her eyes stopped when she saw the price that had paid for the lot. She raised her eyebrows. They had indeed gotten a very low price. Olivia put the document aside and saw that Violet had also passed her the cease and desist letter from the lawyer at the company that was suing Confluence. There was also the evidence that she had already seen in Rosalind's presentation at the Confluence technology meeting. She shook her head, still bewildered at how something that was completely invented out of thin air had become so serious. She scoffed. "Violet, how is the investigation going for that matter I asked you to look into? Who are these jokers who are trying to ruin us?" Violet kept her eyes ahead of her as she answered, "I'm almost done looking into them, but there is more left to do. The game studio is called No World. It's small and it's been open for 10 years. At first, they made some original mobile and online games, but they haven't ever done well. They've been losing a lot of money, especially lately." Olivia frowned as she absorbed this. She turned to the final document that Violet had handed back to her, a write-up of information about the game company No World. Olivia continued, "At first, I couldn't find much, but then I found out that they did some work in other countries allegedly plagiarizing popular games and selling their vision for cheap. The person in charge of the studio knew copyright law very well. He's been threatened by many game companies before, but always knew how to get out of it. It looks like he's never been held liable." Olivia looked over photos of No World and their offices that Violet had included. "Wow, their studio is really small," Olivia remarked. "It's like just an apartment and a few really old computers. It looks temporary." Violet raised an eyebrow and nodded. "Currently, they have 10 employees, including their boss. Including accounting, public relations, that's truly everybody. I looked up each of the employees and found that the boss traveled to London once before last quarter and Philadelphia twice." Really?" Olivia frowned. "Interesting. Is there anything else?" "That's all I found that I think could be important," Violet replied. Olivia stacked the photos neatly and put them back in the folder. "We have a negotiation with them on Friday. Find someone to monitor them at all times. After our negotiation, no matter what the result is, we should contact the person behind it." Violet nodded. "Yes, miss." "How's the land auction going in Brooklyn?" Olivia asked, much happier thinking about that matter than their lawsuit. "Another auction has already started, right?" "Yes, it's going to take place on Wednesday afternoon," Violet answered, sounding like she enjoyed that topic much more than the lawsuit as well. "We have already bought the piece of land we wanted. Did you have your eye on more?" "Just continue to keep watch on how it goes," Olivia replied. "Yesterday, I read in a report released by the city that the third batch of land has already been divided, and the next bid should take place within a couple of months after that." Violet smiled at Olivia. "Miss, which piece of land do you want me to go after?" Olivia smiled gratefully back at her. She loved working with Violet. She was always excellent and never let her down. She wanted to give her more responsibility. "This time you go and take a look. You make the decision what land we should buy." "Me?" Violet asked, stunned, then remembered she needed to concentrate on the road. She blinked rapidly as she looked forward. Olivia did not often get to see Violet caught off guard, and this was exactly the response she was hoping for. "Yes," Olivia answered with a nod. "Remember to check out all of the surrounding industries and their locations before you go." "Miss, Violet was speechless and a little confused. Bidding for land on Olivia's behalf was no small matter. It was a project that cost millions and millions of dollars. What if I do it wrong? Choose the wrong thing or bid the wrong amount or... "It's fine." Olivia held up a hand, cutting off Violet's anxieties. "This is an opportunity to train. There's a lot more about the company I want you to learn." She put the documents aside, still being careful not to place her hands in a way that would disturb Morgana's sleep. "When I move to London, you and Jeff will be in charge at the park company in New York City. Is that all right with you?" Violet swelled with pride. Yes, it would be my honor. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me. That's great, and you're so welcome, Olivia replied with a nod. She paused for a moment, trying to think of the best way to work her next query. I have a separate question for you. Do you know what the fastest way is for me to find a random person who is overseas? The fastest way? Violet thought about it carefully. She got an idea. Let's post a reward. That gets you a lot of motivated people to help out very fast. Olivia narrowed her eyes, considering that. Do you mean like posting a bounty? Can everyone see it? Everyone who normally sees postings for missions in the underworld. Violet thought for a moment as she drove. Miss Johnson, what's the approximate location of the person? Northern Europe, Olivia replied. She had tried to figure out which country in Northern Europe Chris Jones was most likely to be in, but her search came up with nothing. Northern Europe. Violet turned over that answer in her mind, trying to decide if she had any other suggestions. Miss, you could try to seek help from Sir Andrew Park. His headquarters are in Europe, and I think he has a branch up north. It would probably be much faster if you went to him directly. I see. Olivia took that in, unsure if she was willing to get her grandfather involved with all that entailed. But Chris was missing, and he had been missing for a worrying amount of time. She was hesitant, but few people were more important to her. Olivia set her jaw. What time is it where my grandfather is right now? As soon as the words left her mouth, even though it made her nervous, Olivia knew this was the right thing to do. She would enlist Andrew Park's help to find Chris. Violet looked at the clock on the car's dashboard screen and glanced upward, counting in her head. It should be early afternoon where Andrew Park is, miss. Okay, thank you, Olivia replied, looking out the window, thinking. Sven had told her he would call her as soon as he knew anything, and she anxiously awaited for him to follow through on that promise. Miss, Violet sighed as Olivia noticed she clenched her jaw. Have you seen the news recently? Olivia had not, but she could tell by Violet's body language that this would be about something extremely unpleasant. News? I don't think so, unless you mean business news. What are you talking about? Violet steeled herself and took a deep breath before answering. A missing pregnant woman was found. She was said to have died a horrible, painful, and very cruel death. Her body was found yesterday. They think that when they found her, she had been dead for almost a month. Oh no, that's terrible. Olivia shook her head. What happened? She was disturbed by the news, but Violet did not normally share details of grisly crimes with her. She was even more disturbed by the idea that this was relevant information to her specifically, and she did not particularly want to find out how. Since the news was broadcasted, it sounds like they're slowly piecing information together. But this pregnant woman was from New York City, even though she was found in a more rural area. According to the Nether Group spies in the police department and the morgue where she was examined, the wounds on her body were festering, but the incisions were neat and there were no extra cuts made. Olivia frowned. I'm not sure what you mean by that. It was done by an expert, an insider, Violet replied. According to the police investigation, she was about to marry her boyfriend. She disappeared the day the two of them were planning to go together to City Hall to get their marriage certificate. But in the end, she disappeared after leaving the house early in the morning on her own. By all accounts, she seemed to be a stable, happy, normal woman with no enemies and no history of mental illness or activity outside the law. Olivia frowned, looking out the window into space, thinking about the disturbing picture that Violet had painted. When you say it was done by an expert, an insider, you mean a professional killer, don't you? Olivia had become accustomed to the vast amounts of new lingo in Violet's line of work and was always discovering more. Violet nodded. I do. I keep feeling like this whole thing is not normal. Her hand that was holding the steering wheel tightened. Miss, please be careful. I will, Violet, thank you, Olivia replied. One mystery after another kept arising in Olivia's world, never giving her the chance to catch her breath before the next one invaded her space. Confluence Technology had encountered targeted legal trouble from someone who seemed to be determined to ruin them. Chris Jones had gone missing. And now there was an unusual tragedy involving a pregnant woman that Violet seemed to think spelled trouble for Olivia. For the first time, Olivia felt like all of these issues were weighing on her too heavily, stacking on each other to the point that she could not breathe. Each one of them was a separate problem, but each alone had its own crushing weight. Her temples throbbed in pain and she had an irritating eye twitch. Olivia looked at the street rushing toward them through the windshield and felt like it was getting too difficult for her to keep moving forward in her life as it was. The car made a turn and finally came to a stop in the garage of the park company's office building. Olivia gulped and tried to push her creeping dread and panic aside. She needed to get to work. Olivia woke Morgana up once the car came to a stop. Still groggy, she allowed Olivia to pull her out of the car. "Ugh," she groaned, her face grumpy. Olivia gestured for Morgana to walk toward her. "Come on, we're going to head up to my office and you can go back to sleep." "Yes, Morgana narrowed her eyes and nodded. They were barely open. In a daze, she followed Olivia and Violet into the elevator. When they reached Olivia's office on the top floor, they approached a woman standing at the door to her office, Lily Miller. Since Olivia had not been at the park company for so many days, she had honestly forgotten all about their suspicious intern Lily, who she knew was working for one of her enemies. But she was so bad at it that Olivia did not mind keeping her close and letting her think she was gathering information. "Good morning, Chairman." Lily nodded, greeting them with a smug smile. "Good morning." Olivia returned her nod. "Lily, could you run and grab me a latte with just a little bit of sugar?" "Okay." Lily agreed and left quickly. Violet frowned as she watched Lily disappear down a hallway. Why did she come in on a Saturday and so early? Did she know you were coming in? Violet turned to Morgana to get her reaction, forgetting that Morgana was essentially asleep on her feet. Her puffy eyes were closed as she swayed where she stood. Olivia entered her office with Violet following after, and Morgana shuffled in. She slumped grumpily down onto the couch, pulling a throw blanket over her. A couple people from Violet's assistant group walked in after them and greeted her. "Good morning, miss." Olivia knew that the assistant group had secret cameras all over her office that they monitored constantly. And they also knew to keep an eye on Lily Miller specifically. "Good morning, just the people I wanted to see. What was Lily doing in my office just now?" One of the assistants frowned. "She came in and flipped through the documents on your desk. She took a photo. But we know the documents on your desk were unimportant because we had previously put your important documents into your safe before you left. She also tried to open the safe, but just as she found it, you came." Olivia nodded. "Great work, thank you. Please reset the password to the safe again. It should be too difficult for her to crack. Then move all the documents from the safe to the assistant group." The two people from the assistant group instantly understood what Olivia meant and nodded with a smile. Olivia waved them away. "All right, go do your work. Please take out all the documents that need my personal approval." Olivia smiled and walked behind her desk to sit down. "Those waffles were for me," Morgana moaned loudly, startling Olivia and Violet before they remembered that she was asleep on the couch. She turned over and started snoring. Violet shook her head at Morgana. She moved close to Olivia and spoke softly. "Miss, if you want to contact Andrew Park, then let's do it now. It's a good time to hopefully get a hold of him." Olivia sighed, readying herself. "Okay." She took out her phone and selected Andrew's number. The phone only rang once before it was picked up. "Hello?" she heard, but she knew it was not Andrew Park. "Jed?" Olivia guessed. She knew instantly that it was him. "Is Grandpa there?" "He's outside. Wait just a minute. I'll get him in here for you," Jed replied. No need." Olivia stopped him. "You can actually help me too." Jed heard Olivia say this and felt a little insulted. When she said he could actually help her too, it made it sound to him like she didn't think he was very important. "Chris Jones went missing in Northern Europe," Olivia explained. "I want to ask if you could help me find him." "Chris?" Jed heard Olivia's words and felt a little awkward. Olivia was surprised by the tone in Jed's voice and her throat tightened. Do you know where he is? Jed paused, rubbing his face. This is a little complicated. Olivia felt adrenaline rush through her body. Is it because of the relationship between Pluto and the hunters that it is complicated? She asked tentatively. The Parks were involved with Pluto and Chris was in the hunters. Jed smiled a wry smile. You know quite a lot, don't you, Olivia? You've hit the nail on the head. Then, is Chris in danger, or will he be? She asked uneasily. I don't think so, Jed replied, happy to give her at least that bit of good news. Kay is their trump card. They wouldn't be too difficult on him. Olivia took a deep breath. I'm still worried about him. Can you see him? Probably not. Jed bit his lip nervously. At the end of the summer, there's an alliance meeting in the assassination world. I may have a chance to see him then. The end of the summer, Olivia repeated, realizing she was raising her voice. I have to wait to find out if Chris is okay until the end of the summer? She leaned on her desk to steady herself.